All right. Today we continue. We're on Daf Kuf Yud 110, and we continue the discussion that the Gemara had asked. How can we start? How can we have enacted, or the Chachamim enacted, a 4-cup mitzvah at the 4 cups of the Seder when drinking in pairs or eating in pairs, anything to do two of something is zugos, is a danger to a person because they are attaching themselves to a lack of unity, which is the connection to Hashem. That's the idea of zugos, and that there is a power of danger from shadim, which is the term for spiritual beings or spiritual things that can hurt a person. In any case, so the question is, how can we have 4 cups? We saw 3 answers yesterday. Now the Gemara is going to get back into the ideas of zugos, where and who should be worried about it, and ultimately we'll see that in halacha we don't have that concern. So Gemara says, "Lo yasetz rochav trei." The Gemara quoting the previous. This is quoting the previous Gemara that said that a person shouldn't eat to, drink to, and have marital relations, intercourse twice. So Gemara says, "Amai nimlachu." That doesn't come in pairs. If the person does it again, that's another. It's restarting individually. It's like we saw in the previous line that the Gemara said that each one of the cups is a separate mitzvah, or somebody can change his mind and have a glass of wine and then not intend to have another and then have another. So those are separate drinkings. For sure, having relations, the person will have once, and if they decide again that night to do it again, that's going to be a separate consideration that wouldn't combine. So that's just a reconsideration, wanting to do it again, but not that from the start it was done in pairs. So the Gemara says, you're right. That's not what it means. Abaye says, means if a person ate 2, it's something in pairs, or drank 2, something in a pair, so then they shouldn't have relations, even once, because it can, as he weakens, he can become ill. The Gemara says that a person shouldn't take this lightly. Anybody that drinks in doubles, his own health, his own life is in his own hands. Rabbi Yehuda says, but that's true only if you didn't actually walk out in the midst of the drinking to split them up. But if he splits them up by walking out into the street, but if he walked out the street, then he can do it. It's no problem. Amar Ravashi, Chazina le Rav Chanina bar Bevai. Ravashi said that I saw Hananiah, the son of Bevai, the Achol Kasa, the Kol Kasa Vakasa, have a nafik b'chazi apeshuka. That for every cup he drank, he would walk out, have another drink, take a break, and then come back in and have another drink. So he always walked out to make sure he never reached a pair. So Gemara says, however, that we say that it's a danger. We only say that it's a danger if he has a couple of drinks and then he travels. But if he's going to remain in his house, there's no concern. In other words, this concern of drinking double and so on is not really going to be a concern if a person is in his own house, which leaves us with a question. If that's the case, so why in the world we need an answer, the various answers before to say that the Chachamim enacted 4 cups, but it's a special night because it's a night of protection, or the bracha, the cup that's for bracha doesn't count. It's not going to be mitzdarif. It's not going to be a part of the count of four, or because each one of the cups is a separate mitzvah. Why do we need all those answers? A person is at the Seder, they're in their own house. So whether this is for the people that are guests, that are going to be going home, or as we'll see later, there's another concern besides for zugos. There's also a concern of black magic. So this is going to be an exciting daf. Amar Rabbi Zeira v'lisha and kalasa derech. Going to sleep after having two cups is just like traveling. So a person would have to remain in their house, but not go to sleep immediately. Also going to the bathroom is also going to be like somebody leaving the house and is dangerous. So Gemara says, wait, and in the person's own house where they are, there's no concern. There's only concern if somebody's leaving. And the Gemara at this point thinks that and if as long as you're staying where you are, you're not going to go to sleep, you're fine. For Rava Manikashuri, Rava, he would, in order to know where he was up to in his count of drinking, he would count the beams on the roof, on the ceiling. So this way he would know where he's up to and know whether he's had a pair of drinks or an odd number. Abaye, ki avashasi chad kasa. Abaye, when he would drink one cup, mankit le'imei trei kasa. His mother, which we've mentioned before, wasn't his mother. His mother died in childbirth, and his father died even before that. So he was raised by Rabbi, his teacher, and his wet nurse essentially was his adoptive mother. She was a healer, a medicine woman back then. So she would hold for him 2 cups of wine, trei kase b'trei yadin. This way, he knew that he was up to. He would remain in odd numbers. So if he had 1 cup, she would hold 2 more cups, so that he would know that he would not end until he had both of those cups, so that he was safe. Similarly, he had his waiter, when he drank 2 cups, the waiter would hold one to remind him that he still needs 1 more cup. And if chad kasa, if he had 1 cup to drink, then the waiter would hold 2 cups for him, 1 in each hand, so that he would know that he needs to drink 2 more. Where it says, Adam chashav shani, an honorable person is different. Whether this is different because they are being watched and other people are learning from them, so they have to be careful, even when they're remaining at home, so that other people who are traveling won't learn from them, or and for them it will be dangerous, or that the danger applies to a person that is an honorable person, an Adam chashav, even if he's at home. And that the Gemara made exclusions for people that are for people staying at home, and it's only for somebody traveling, going to sleep, going to the bathroom. That's only true for us commoners. But for an Adam chashav, for an honorable person, for them, it would be indeed a greater danger. So there are 2 ways in the Mefarshim of taking that. Amar Ula, Asara Kaisa Zain by Mishum Zudas. Ula says 10 cups, even though 10 and up, even though that it's an even number, so you have pairs there, it's not going to be a problem. Ula Tameh, as Ula explained, the Ama Ula had said, some say it's actually in a brisa, that there are 10 cups, a series of cups of wine that you have in the house of an avel, including one for benching. But there are 10 cups that the avel would have in the house of the avel. The Gemara and Ksubis list them, and the Chachamim again would not enact something that has a concern of zugos, and you don't have some of the answers that we had before that. That it's Pesach night, which is a Leil Shemurim, or each one is a separate mitzvah. You don't have those 2 answers. You do have the answer that Rava had earlier, which was that if one of the cups is a bracha, so it wouldn't count to equal an even number, but it would count in order to keep it an odd number, because it's only going to count for the benefit. In any case, so that's the Ula, according to his opinion, is going to say that the fact that there's 10 cups enacted by in the house of an Avil is evidence of 10 not being dangerous. Because if you would think that 10 cups are a concern of zugas, why would the Chachamim enact something that in and of itself can be dangerous? And says, but 8 would have enough to count as zugas. Now, what's the reason that 10 wouldn't? The Gemara now is going to tell us a reason for all the others, but it didn't tell us. It only told us where Ula would know this from, but not why. And if you remember, we talked about the idea of zugas is a breach in the connection to the oneness of Hashem and seeing the oneness of Hashem in the world. 10 is being the totality of the unit of single digits moving to double digits, not because of the digits, because in Torah it doesn't necessarily have 2 digits. The idea of a complete number and a complete concept. 10 is unity as well. We mentioned this a little bit when we talked about the Gemara says that at the times of Mashiach, the harp will have 10 strings, and David HaMelech sings about Alei Asor in the Song of Shabbos upon the 10-string lyre, the harp. That 10 strings represents the complete unity, the completion of that time. So too, 10 is a connection to unity, and that would in and of itself not be a destructive number. 8, however, yesh ba mishum zugas. However, Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Avhuna, Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Avhuna, who were in the next generation. Yes, Neil, 10 cups at the Seder sounds really good. If you want to complete the Seder, however, I'm not suggesting it. We'll bring it down to more practical numbers, Neil. So Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Avhuna, the Rashbam points out, were the next generation, were more lenient. They said, Shalom l'mitztaref. Now, this is an interesting thing. There are 60 letters in the bracha that the Kohanim give. Yivarechacha Hashem yishmerecha, Yar Hashem panav elecha v'choneka, Yis Hashem panav elecha v'yasim l'cha shalom. Count it, there are 60 letters. The 60 letters are representative of the goodness countering evil in the world, counting destruction or lack of peace, meaning lack of oneness of Hashem in connection with that oneness. So the 60 letters of the bracha are the antidote to all that we're talking about here. So the bracha of the Kohanim itself is the antidote. Now, in the last bracha, there are 7 words. Yair Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. So those 7 words, the word shalom, the 7th word represents that 7th cup. And if you have 8 cups, the 7th cup is already bringing peace and oneness. And so it will not combine for destruction. And so 8 cups also is safe. That's what Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Avhuna said. Aval shita yesh b'mishum zugas. They said, however, 6 has zugas. However, Rabbi and Rabbi Bar Yosef dam tavayu v'chuneka lotiv. The middle bracha has Yair Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka. 5 words. The 5th word being v'chuneka, Hashem give you grace. That v'chuneka, the chen that Hashem gives, is also a connection to the oneness and a connection to Hashem's direct interaction with the human beings, meaning that we have we all have a direct ability to connect to Hashem, an ability to directly connect to Hashem, and therefore that v'chuneka is l'tova, is a blessing, and mitzdaref, so it'll join as a blessing in the count of 5. It'll be an odd number, but it will not join in to make number 6 an even number. L'ra'le mitzdaref. and therefore from 5 and up you can never have a problem of zugas. Aval arba yesh b'hem zugas. However, 4 is going to have zugas. Abai v'Rava damar tavai, their students, Abai and Rava, the next generation. In the first bracha, it's Yevarechacha Hashem v'yishmerecha. 3 words. The third word v'yishmerecha is also a blessing. Hashem will guard you, and that is the direct divine providence that each person has. That Hashem is connected with that person and guiding that person directly, and therefore that protection from Hashem is a connection. The third cup then is also safe, and therefore the fourth cup is not going to have any zugos, because the third cup can only combine for good and not for bad. So it will not join for anything bad, which relieves us that only 2 cups alone, or anything that you're going to do in 2, a pair, and that's it, is going to be a problem. Now, this is questionable because Rava, we said earlier, Rava and Abaye, they would count the beams, or have someone hold their cups for them. Now, if 3 is not a problem and 4 is not a problem, so then what was it? It seemingly was only about the first 2 cups, but once they hit the third cup, they were fine. And so the Gemara says that Rava said that, look, the Rabbanan gave us 4 cups. Now, earlier Rava had said the reason is because one of them is a bracha on benching, so it's not it won't combine to bad. But nevertheless, Rava used that as a proof that 4 is not a problem. Now, Afagav the Itzik, Rabbi Eliyahu, even though that Rabbi Bar Eliyahu did get hurt and it was after drinking these cups, so that's a multiple cups, so that was a problem. Rava was not concerned about this. The Amar Hahu Mishum da Eisvam Pirkah. This was because Rabbi Bar Eliyahu would ask a lot of questions and try and stump the rabbi in the middle of the academy, in the middle of the shir, and so that's why it happened. And it didn't happen because of his drinking multiple cups or pairs of cups. Amar Rav Yosef. So now we're going to be introduced to another conversation, which is I don't want to say persona, but the concept of Ashmadai, and that there is this spiritual being, if you would, Ashmadai, who is the king of the Shadim, of these powers that try and destroy the oneness, or the connection of a person to the oneness, or come about when a person is not connected to the oneness of Hashem, that Hashem is in all, in everything that happens. So Amar of Yosef, Amar li Yosef Sheda. So Yosef Sheda, who also is quoted a lot, this spirit of Yosef, the shade, he would say Ashmadai Malka the Sheda. Ashmadai, who is the king of Shadim, Mamunahu Akula Zugi. He is the one that is in charge of everyone that breaches this concept of not eating or drinking a pair. Umalka le'ekri mazik, and a king would not be one who wants to be called a damager, someone who causes damage, and so either he usually won't harm anybody for drinking a pair because he doesn't want to do it, or really there is no concern of zugas for this, and the only concern would be for black magic, as we'll see later. Ikadarmi, there are those that say Lahaigisa, that the reverse, that Yosef Sheda said, be careful about it. Adarabba, Malka Raschanahu Umaydaboy, that he's a king, and kings lose their temper quickly because they want everybody to do what they want. And Shamelach Peretz Geder Lasla Derech, kings just break through barriers in order to make themselves a path to do what they want. No one can stop him, and therefore be careful about it. So 2 versions of whether Rav Yosef quoted this spirit, the shade Yosef, who was saying, don't be worried about it because Ashmadai is king and he was not going to do anything about it. He doesn't really care. Or To the contrary, be careful about zugas because kings can lose their temper. Amar Papa Amal Yosef Shida. Papa also said that Yosef Shida gave him a message about this. Betray Katlinon, Ba'arba Katlinon, Ba'arba Maskinon, betray. So two, meaning somebody had 2 cups of wine or to drink, or ate 2 of a food. So then the Sheda will kill him. However, 4, which earlier Rava said is not even a concern, right? 4, they won't kill, but they will injure. Betray. Is it? And 2, whether it was intentional or unintentional, it's dangerous. But by 4, it's only if you did so intentionally. Unintentionally, it's not going to be a concern. Now, what happens if somebody forgot? Did I have 1 cup or 2 cups? Right. So he's a lightweight. 1 cup of wine could send him over to a point that he doesn't even know whether he had 1 or 2. Right. So if he forgot, ve'ikri, venafik. And now he's ended at what he thinks may be 2, but maybe not. So Maitakante, what should he do? This case is where he knows for sure he left after having 2 cups and he's now out in the street. So what should he do? He forgot that he had 2 cups. He forgot to have his 3rd cup, and he's out in the street, and now he's in danger because he walked out having had 2 cups. Maitakante, what should he do? Linked zakva diyade the yamina biyade the smala. He should put his right thumb inside the fist or the palm, closed palm of his left hand. Zakva the smala biyade the yamina, and his left thumb in his right hand. So he's doing this, all right, and putting his thumbs in his palms. And he's going to then say a message to the Shedim. B'nei Mahachin, you should say to them, Atun va'ana hatlasa. You and I, it's as 3. So now, obviously, you and I is 2. But you and I are combining as 1. You and I are combining as 1 to combine with the 2 cups that we had to count 3. And the idea is, as we talked about, that 2 is symbolically a breach in the connection with the oneness of Hashem. And by doing this, and according to the Kabbalistic ideas, the right and the left are representative of different attributes of Hashem, and then the bringing the 2 together equals Chesed, which is the kindness, and the idea of that when we bring all the parts together of the way the world runs, or Hashem runs the world, then that actually brings out the chesed, the intent of chesed that Hashem has in the world. And so putting these your hands together like this and saying to Hashem, saying to the Shedim that there is no, I'm not detached from the oneness of Hashem, and therefore we are at an odd number. If you hear the shade respond, yeah, you and I is actually 4. You respond with an odd number, say, yeah, you and I are 5. And if the shade responds, you and I is 6. Respond, you and I, Shiva, we're 7. So indeed, something like this once happened. Ad me'avachad. That the response went back and forth up to 101. And when this person who had had 2 cups and walked out and had his thumbs in the other palms and was saying this, reached 101, Pakashida, the shade burst and died. I don't know what all that means, but that's what it says. Amar Meimar, Amar li rishtana the nashim kashfanias. Now here we reach a new concern. Up until now, we talk about Shedim, Azikim, the idea of spiritual disconnect from the oneness of Hashem, and that spiritually that can bring about this attachment to negativity and to bad. Here we have, which we call Shedim. Here we have the idea of attaching to black magic, somebody manipulating the spirit of the world, whatever that means. So, Meimar says that the head of the black magic teacher, right? This head teacher for black magic, the Women's Academy for Black Magic, right? So this is the head witch, the head sorceress. She said, "Haiman the pagabu benashim chashvanias." If you happen to encounter women who are trying to play black magic on you, neimahachi. Here's what you should say to them, which is going to protect you from their black magic. Chari chamimi b'dekula bazia. There's hot dung, hot waste, excrement in a broken wicker basket. L'pumaychu nasha decharshaya. And this shall be served to you into your mouths, women who are practicing black magic, who are using your words and your incantations to try and harm people. Karach karchaichi, and your hair shall fall out, and that's a form of telling them that the human waste. And this is all about human waste, and the human waste is a form of connecting with the dredges of what's in the world, and so hair, which grows, is a form of a human waste, and waste in the basket, and a broken basket, which is something that can't last and can't contain anything. So their hair will fall out as well, and parach parchaichi, and the parach parchaichi, the wind will blow away all the crumbs, meaning anything that you try to maintain within satiating and feeding all this evil will all be blown away. And these are forms of magic that they would use. So this is a prayer for the breach of that. And we turn the page to Kuf Yud Amid Base 110b. Ivdur Tavlunaichi, and so too your spices that you're using for your black magic will be blown apart and separated. And the wind will carry away all the new spices, all the new incense that you're holding in your hands to use for your black magic. Nashim Chashvanias, you women of that are sorceresses doing black magic. Adachanani v'chanchi loy atisu l'goy. And since I am being protected from Hashem, so that's the connection to Hashem, is saying I'm being shown grace, chen, from Hashem, and you too, v'chananaychi, you too are going to show grace to me. You're going to protect me as well. Loy atisu l'goy, and therefore I don't come in your midst. In other words, I'm not allowing myself to be in your midst because I'm protecting myself. I'm connecting with Hashem. Now, if I were to come in your midst, you're no longer compassionate on me, and you want me not to protect myself. So this is a part of the statement to them, meaning I'm connected to Hashem and you can't affect me. Now the Gemara says that in Eretz Yisrael, in the West, essentially, they would not be careful with Zuga. They didn't care about it. It was not an issue to have two of anything. Rav Dimi min Naharda, Rav Dimi, who came from Naharda, Kapit, he was very careful. Not only was he careful, he was even careful about when weighing barrels or measuring what was in the barrels, that the number should be an odd number, not an even number. Even the markings on the barrels, which would tell you how much it weighed or how much the content weighed, he would be careful that he would add or take away a little bit so that you knew that the number was a odd number, not an even number. Have a uvdo paka chavisa, but for once he forgot, or whoever was marking it forgot, and they totaled the barrel to an even number and marked it on the barrel, and the barrel broke. The Gemara says, "Kollel the milsa called the kapit kapti badi," and this is the rule. If you're concerned about it, it'll be a concern, and it'll bring damage. The loy kapit badi, and if you're not worried about it, it's not going to be a concern. A lot of discussion revolves around this line. What does it mean that it's a concern only if you're concerned about it? Is it a real thing or not? Obviously, this is a doorway to understanding some of this. Some texts of the Gemara have this, as it says on the side, however, that in Dikduke Sofrim, which is the collection of all the old texts, this text actually is not there, but it's in our text, so I'll read it. But however, a person should be to some degree concerned about it, or try and avoid it if possible, even if you're not concerned about it. However, halachically, that's not the case. Halachically, the case is that we're not concerned with it at all. Rav Dimi said that 2 eggs, 2 walnuts, 2 gourd or 2 kishuin, some type of squash, and one more thing which we don't know what it is. Halacha Meshum Sinai. This is a halacha from Sinai to be careful about, and there's a great discussion about this as well. Since we're not concerned about any of this, what's the halacha? In fact, it's a very common thing that we have 2 eggs. With a classic breakfast, you get 2 eggs, or two eggs scrambled, 2 eggs, sunny side up, etc. Right? So it's something we're not concerned about, even though the Gemara here says it's halacha mishum b'sira. But the Gemara, the Chachamim wondered, what is this other thing? What is the next one? And since they didn't remember what the other one was, they were concerned about everything as zugas in case it was the other thing. Even though we said earlier that 10, 8, 6, 4 have no concern of zugim. That's only in regards to damages. But in regards to magic, black magic, there is a concern even with more than 10. As there was a story with this man who divorced his wife, and she was upset and vengeful, and eventually Azil Insava Lechanua, she married the owner of the local pub. And every day her ex-husband would come and drink in the pub of her new husband. Have a of the lake shafim, and she tried to play black magic on him. But it would never work. Because he was very careful bazuga to not drink pairs. He would have 1 or 3 or 5, etc. One day, he wasn't sure. He drank so much, he wasn't sure how much he had to drink. Up to 16 cups. He still had a clear head. But if his darman was careful. But once he got beyond that, he no longer had the ability to be careful to know how much he was drinking. And she made sure that he actually ended with an even number on zugas. And when he was walking, he encountered this, as he was leaving, the ex-husband was leaving this place, he encountered an Arab merchant. Amar le gavra katilu the azalacha. He said, look at this dead man walking. Azil chavke ledikula. So he either on account of this person saying that, or because he was losing his balance. So he held on to a palm tree. Tzavach, the palm tree dried out. Tzavach dikla, it dried out. It became it was basically a dead tree and became easy to push over, paka, and indeed it broke. And paka, and essentially it seems like he got injured or died on account of that. Amar Avira ka'aris v'kikores ema mishum zugas. Rabbi Avira says that there's no zugas in bowls and pieces, because that was made by, in other words, you could have 2 bowls of soup, 2 plates of something. That's Kollel, the miltza culture, gomer b'dei adam ema mishum zugas. Anything that a person makes, in other words, you divide it into 2, that's not going to be zugas. Gomer b'dei shamayim, b'mili d'meichel, b'mili mini d'meichel, chashina. If it was completed by Hashem, meaning different types of foods, there you're going to have zugas, chanus, ema mishum zugas, going to 2 different bars, 2 different shops. That's not going to be zugas. Nimlach ema mishum zugas. Also, if you thought you're only going to have 1, and then you reconsider and you have another, those don't combine because that's a nimlach. Each one's a separate idea, and they don't and they're not zugas. A reach ema mishum zugas. Also, a guest has no zugas. He can have 2 because since a person is a guest, they don't know if they're going to be offered a second cup. And when they're offered a second cup, they know they're going to be offered a third cup. So each one is a separate drink. So it's not 2 that they're having as a pair, but they're having a bunch of 1 cups. Isha ema mishum zugas. For a woman, there's no considered zugas either. And the idea is also because normally she would not drink more than 1 cup, and so it was considered each time a reconsideration. Each cup is separate. However, the important women who would drink more than 1 cup, so for her it would be considered then that a proper pair. Again, it's based on intent, based on whether it's likely that a person was going to have another one, and so they would combine, or it was unlikely or not up to them to have another one, and therefore each one is a separate cup, and there wouldn't be zugas.
We saw my waiter, he has to make a bracha every cup they bring him because he doesn't know if he's going to get another one.
Correct.
Is that true of a guest too? I never heard that that's true of a guest.
Correct. If it's not at the table and they bring some other food out, then you would have to make a bracha, unless you are a guest and the host is the one that's bringing it out, because then you can say, look, when I make a bracha, I'm intending for whatever the host is offering. And so that's a general bracha. So in regards to brachas, you're assuming that there's different parts of the meal are going to be brought out, and your intent is that the bracha you make is for covering for everything. But if you're not a guest, you're sort of your own host, and you don't know what's coming, or you're at a restaurant, you're ordering on your own. If you didn't intend from the start, and then you decide to order it, you're going to have to make a new bracha.
Correct. A waiter could also have an intent?
Well, a waiter doesn't know he's going to have more. But if the wait staff knows that they're going to be getting, a lot, and they'll be able to have, each one of the cups that everyone else gets, they're going to get as well, then indeed they don't have to make a new bracha because the intent is there. There was a type of wine drink, Jules. It's hard to know exactly how strong their wine was, but they did dilute it 3 parts to 1. All Roman wine was diluted 3 parts to 1. So it's hard to know whether that made it equal to us or it was weaker than ours. It's unclear. So there was a type of drink called asparagus.
Don't we say that if it's chai, it's a sakana? To drink yain chai, I thought it was a sakana.
It wasn't good. In which way was it sakana?
I thought it was a kamazit because it's just too strong.
It was dangerous because it was too strong. I mean, I don't think it's stronger than hard alcohol that we have. I mean, it wasn't more alcoholic. It just
Right.
it depends how much you drink of it. It could be that it was strong, and if you had too much of it, it was dangerous. But I don't remember it being more mazik than. I think it was just it was not considered good, and therefore it was not a bracha because it doesn't taste good. Now, this drink asparagus was basically a wine mixed with some sort of cabbage water, something related to cabbage. We're not clear exactly what food this asparagus is. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't sound like it's the asparagus that we know, but it is in the cabbage family, and so they would take some cooked water from the water that they cooked asparagus in, and they would add it to wine, and it was medicinal. And therefore, if somebody had a cup of asparagus, this wine that has some of this cabbage water in it, as a pair, that one would only count for the benefit and not to the detriment. That means if they end up having 3 cups, so then the 2 cups plus the asparagus, then the asparagus is a part of the pair, a part of the set. However, if they have 4 cups total, and the asparagus being one of them, it will not count in it, and it only counts as 3 cups of wine, and the asparagus is separate. And the idea is because this is for a bracha, it's for healing, and so it'll only combine for good and not for bad. Amar Avina Meshmeidu Rava. Avina said in the name of Rava, Zugi lechumra, that v'amri la zugi lekula, that a person that he doesn't know if he had 2 or 3. So now, if you add 1, you're going to you may be moving it away from the pair, but you also may be coming to a new even number. So what should you do? So one version says be strict and have 1, because you can make a condition and say, if I was up to 2, so well, now I've undone it, I've had a third. And if I was up to 3 and now I'm moving to 4, or I had 1 and I'm moving to 2, well, I don't want them to join. And so it's better to have another one. Whereas the second version says, no, be lenient. Don't have another, because this way you're showing, I don't really care about zugas, which we saw earlier. If you don't care, you don't care. However, if you drink another one and to undo the zugas, you're showing you care, and you may actually come to an even number, so it's better not to drink. Amar Rav Yosef, Trade the chamri v'chad the shichro lemitzaref. Rav Yosef said if you had 2 of wine and 1 of a sheikhar, so a beer, they don't combine. Trade the shichro, but if you had 2 beer v'chad the chamra, and then you had 1 wine, the wine will undo it, and it does combine mitzaref v'simonech, and the siman is ze'aklal. This is a rule in regards to tuma. We don't have time to explain that, so we'll come back to this idea tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem.